Welcome to Art Talk Bus Stop, a monthly youth-centered podcast about how artists do their work and make a living. I'm Nicole Cabrera.
I'm Mayana Ross.
I'm Erica Thomas, and today we are really excited to have Kalimah Abioto as our guest. Kalimah, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and who you are?
Yeah, I am a multi-artist, filmmaker, poet, drummer, musician, person creating this world. Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to kick off talking about some of your film and kind of starting off with that, since there's a lot that you've made. And for people who aren't familiar with sort of what production looks like and all that stuff, what is the process of creating either a project that's long or short? What does that look like?
Well, I think for me, it's been it depends on who I'm making the project for. If I'm making it for myself, then it's really, taking the time to write and bring out those ideas from myself, or get inspiration, just be open to getting inspiration and writing them out, and even creating little storyboards if we're talking about film, and then going through the process of really trying to bring it out into life, but if I'm making it for someone else, then I think it starts with a conversation about what they're looking for, and then I'll go back and write and dig deeper into how I format the story, and then you just kind of go into your pre-production of planning, getting the actors or the interviewees, and even before that you might write a treatment, the kind of who, what, when, where type of idea, and how the project is to be structured, and from there then you go on to get the characters, or the actors and the interviewees, equipment stuff. So it's a process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe I watched one of your videos, and it was about an older lady who talked about her time kind of growing up in the 1950s. And there were some shots in there where they featured kind of her face, the side, her hands, and kind of just describing it for everyone. Just lots of different angles. I was curious, how do you plan out like shots like that and angles like that? And what are some things that you have to keep in mind when recording something like that?
Well, I guess, you want things to be as dynamic as possible, especially when you're interviewing someone. Sometimes, you just may say, oh, I want like 2 cameras just to represent, different sides of a person. You just want to get as much emotion as possible, and so I think that's the key, and then you see what angles represent like the most, can give you the most information, and so you just kind of go from what feels and looks the most interesting.
I also wanted to ask a little bit more about one of your projects. I believe it was called Sight, which I thought one of my favorites that I watched from you, about the little girls and like having all like this kind of magical aspect to it, or like we talked about it a little bit earlier, kind of very surreal. And I was wondering, can you talk a little bit more about that piece and how it came to you, or how you worked it out to be the project that it came out to be?
Yeah. For like a couple of years before, I have just been thinking about, just children with powers, and like what that would be like. And now we are seeing more representation in film and movies and stuff like that. But like a short while ago, which wasn't a while ago, we weren't seeing that. And so during that time, I was just like, yeah, like, these black children, these black girls with these powers, and what would they be using it for, and so that's kind of how the story kind of came about, just the basis of it, and just talking with my sisters. I have like 4 sisters, so I know that played a big part in it, and so yeah, just talking about the magic of black girls, and yeah, so that was kind of the basis of it, and even that project was kind of, it was, as you could tell, it was very experimental, and I wanted to kind of even build on the ideas even more. So yeah, and also my sister, she, I don't know if you guys know what like astral projection is, but it's like when you kind of leave your body, and when you go to sleep, and it's usually not voluntary. It usually just like happens, and so that was also like to jump and go to different dimensions. That also like played into it. So yeah.
It's like he just left. Is he coming back? Does he still know I'm here? I see his paintings, or I remember his hair, and then I remember that he's not so far away. I remember he told me one day, he said, Olivia, I won't always be around to take care of you. So he told me how to read the cards so that I could ask for advice. I could read them, and they would help me. So I do. And now I just make my own. My grandfather owned this house. He left it to me.
I was going on a hike with my family, and we were taking a break. I went to a tree beside the path. On my way to the back of the tree, I hit a little plant, and I heard a little voice, and the voice kept saying stuff, and I would look around and I wouldn't see anything. Then it said, over here, and I noticed it was a plant. From then on, I've been able to do it. I've been able to go to parks, and instead of talk to the kids there, I usually talk to the plants. Stories. People who came before tell me stories of people who lived off the ground and how trees and other plants used to be respected and how the world was much more peaceful. I believe in us. At first, I thought I was all alone in this. I thought I was the only one who could travel and change things in the real world. But then I met Olivia and Mia. We've been through things together. To travel, we call on them, and we use our gifts. And there's more to come.
Ayana, do you have any questions? Just wanted to give you a little space.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how you kind of came to filmmaking, like, and making the projects that
Sure.
you make.
Yeah. In high school there was this place called the Media Co-op. Well, before that I had just been like super into movies and watching movies and just love doing that. And it was my like escape, my own world, but I told my mom I was interested in making films, and I don't know how she found out about it, but there was this place called the Media Co-op back in Memphis, where I'm from. And it was basically this place that this man had created, like a community in the basement of this church. It was turned into like a theater, and there were home video cameras you could use, and editing stations. And back then, it costs a lot, to have like a editing suite on a Mac. Those things were a bit more less common, so it was really like a blessing to come across that, and so I just started going there all the time, every day almost, after school. And there were people really nobody was my age, except for another good friend of mine who I started making films with. So there were like a lot of older people. Just a lot of characters. It was just a really great time, and it was really wonderful. So that's how I started making them, through the Media Co-op and through making them with another friend of mine.
Well, I also wanted to ask about how history plays a role in your art as well.
For sure. It's a big part. It's a big part of, I think, what of my process. I'm kind of, you're like always thinking about, me as a Black woman, like, what does that mean? What voice am I speaking from, and how am I carrying, in a sense, my ancestors' voice forward, and or my cultural heritage forward, and I think it's important not to always think about that, because sometimes you need to say things that are not always historically about that, but I think it is important to, for me anyways, to always come back to, the sacrifices that Black people have made, throughout this country and the world, through the sacrifices that women have made, and so just bringing those thoughts out into my work in some way, is important. It's not always necessary, but it is important for me in my journey,
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I asked because I was up very late last night, because I was reading one of the articles about through Willamette Week, and like the title itself is like inspired by displacement in Portland. Black genius looks for alternatives to gentrification in Memphis. And I was like going down this rabbit hole. Articles about gentrification in Portland and like the Albina area and how yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You can't tell.
I love it.
All day. Looking like his mom.
Enjoy. There is a void, there is lack, but I think that where there is a void, there's also opportunity. So get busy, Memphis. Get busy. Plant some gardens and water that fertile ground, till that soil, and teach and train and provide a platform so that everything you dream of, everything that you need, everything that you want to be, you've created that in such a place as this. So. Morning light, silken dreams take flight as a dark gives away.
It's very real, you know. Yeah, because it helps you have context about, you know, what's going on today, you know. And even though, you know, when I first came here, I just felt, I was like, this place is weird, you know. Like, and not just weird in the way of like keep Portland weird, you know, which is like a saying that is around, but like there's something that's like unsaid here. There's something that is like, I feel like a ghost is here or something like that, you know. And at that time I didn't really know, you know, just the fact that like black people weren't it was illegal for black people to be here up until the 20s, you know. And you know, about the sundown towns here in Oregon. And my sister, who actually has a project, it was called, it's still called the Black Portlanders. You know, she did a lot of research into that. And, you know, that's when we found out those things, you know, because they hadn't really been talked about, you know. And then, you know, of course, people in the Alberta area and on, I think it was William Street and all this, you know, all these folks have been economically pushed out of their areas, out of their neighborhoods. And so, you know, that was what I was feeling, you know, in terms of just the racism that was just kind of hidden or not talked about, you know, under this idea of like, you know, this is like a environmental metropolis, or, you know, such and such. So anyways, like, long story short, I'm really glad you like did that research, and I think that's part of like the good thing about bringing history forward into current artworks, is because it can help somebody else gain perspective about what has happened and the work that still needs to be done. Yeah, so yeah, great job, great research. Yeah,
Ayana's always doing projects, or is interested in projects that relate to history a lot. So that
is awesome.
Yeah, a cool connection I saw between both of your work.
Very cool, very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your work. Yeah, all of y'all's work for sure. Yeah.
Kalimah, I have a question. Is it all right if I jump in, you two?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
You mentioned your family a couple of times, and I know your siblings, you have artistic siblings also who, you know, make work around town and also other places. Can you tell us what it's like, or what it was like growing up in a family of artists?
You know, my mother my mother is an artist. You know, she's an attorney, a kind of civil rights and criminal defense attorney in Mississippi. And my father, he's like a musician. He plays many different instruments, and he's a educator specializing in African music and culture. So those things, those ideas played heavily in our growing up, you know, about, you know, African history, about Black history, about activism, about you know, creativity. You know, not only, you know, is my mother like a attorney, but I always say that attorneys are really just writers, you know. And so she's a writer, and also she does like food arts and home arts and crafts. So, you know, there were just always, you know, stories or, you know, crafts, music, you know, that was always around. And the importance of your heritage, those things were always around. So, you know, and of course having 4 sisters, you know, that energy, you know, of you know, the female, you know, energy was there. So that's I guess that's what it was like in a sense. You know, we were a bit sheltered to some degree. And so those things factored heavily into our growing up.
Do you feel that your siblings each have their own unique practice that doesn't intersect very much, or do you collaborate, or do you sort of feed off of each other's artistic energy?
Yeah, I think I'm always like inspired, you know, by them. And I think earlier on, you know, when we were in college and like we would do more collaboration. We collaborated on this project called The People Could Fly, you know, which is like a folk tale that was brought back by Virginia Hamilton, who was a children's author. It was like a myth about flying Africans. And so we would go travel to different places and like do these like documentations about Black people and their dreams. So we went, you know, throughout the U.S. We went to Africa. We went to Jamaica. We went to some different places and we did this. So this was earlier on. Lately we've all been kind of doing our own thing, but we're always in like close quarters. So it's like it always intersects, and we're always inspired by one another. And yeah, I know we're gonna collaborate, but I guess we kind of collaborate just in life. So yeah.
I'm curious to know more about your poetry work. As someone who is familiar with like sort of all types of media, I think for me, writing and poetry is kind of my weakest link. So can you start off by telling us, like, to you, what is a poem, or like what makes a poet?
To me, anyone can be a poet, you know. Even if you don't necessarily write, you know, because if you can speak, you know, and I feel like poetry is just a form of expressing our deepest feelings and our soul, you know. So yeah, to me, I don't, it's a goal of mine to be more academic about it, you know, like poem structures and all this, you know. But one way that I express it is I really perform it. I feel like I kind of perform it better than I fully write it, you know, because there are things you can do when you perform it. You can move your body, you can sing it, you can, you know, any little thing can go into almost that poem, and it can bring it to life. So yeah, that's how I would describe it. I started writing when I was like in high school, because I actually started reading late. I used to have a lot of difficulty, like reading and doing math in school and different things. So I guess I came to writing a little bit late, but I think that attributes to my idea that it doesn't matter, like, if you can write or whatever. If you're alive, then you can, do poetry. And poetry, I feel like, is kind of life, really. It can be like how you live your life.
I think you sent us audios specifically and a doc with some of your poems, and I can definitely attest to saying that, like, it's a completely different feeling when you're hearing someone perform versus reading them, because, like I said, like, poetry and writing and that kind of art form is not something that I normally listen to or write to, but you can hear the emotion and you can feel what you're trying to convey, and what you sent us, which I think this might be a good opportunity to add a little snippet of what you sent us.
By the water, celestial beings of dual nature, walking capers, gliding species, flying on air. Time has come, there is nothing, everything is there. It's the water bears. I can see my reflection, tears flowing a new direction. I found my spirit right here by you. Water beings walking on air, cars going into Blue Lagoon. Technology like we never knew. I see beyond the cracks of concrete blues, trapped mice and rats. People smiling and laughing in despair. Got by somehow on a chicken wing and a prayer. We lifted, bound together, fingertips charmed. I feel like heartbeat. The spirit has moved on, homeless but made it yonder to the great beyond. Even with nothing, sun will make a place for you that you can run. Like Night John, reading and writing, scribbling and scratching out meaning. Sometimes it's no physical thing that you can believe in. Still trying to see what happened, ripping and running, putting love songs together, missing parts, life's tribulations just because, learning more than ever, home in my own arms. Spirit moved on, soul lives on, figuring out the meaning, nerves perking out the seams, wounds can't help but bleed. It's still healing, but like I said, I found peace on water's edge with these water bears walking on water and air. A new technology I took and I granted. They teach me how to make a miracle sandwiches, water out of bread, magic for the ham. Water bear, we got you. World peace was the only thing she said. Stroke victim, dreams she couldn't tell in full sentences. Even when the Uzi spray, fight for freedom, turn none away. All can drink the water, all can walk on land, said the water bears. Some you can only find on the water's edge. Celestial beings of dual nature, walking capers, gliding species, flying on air. Time has come, there is nothing, everything is there. Did you see them? Did you see them? Did you see the water bears?
I know you said that you've kind of been making like a shift from sort of your film work to kind of more poetry and writing. Can you tell us, like, or I don't even know if you know, but why has there suddenly become a shift from some of your film and slowly evolving into poetry?
Yeah, I guess I think that, yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to talk about it. I think part of it is knowing that my, like, poetry is a part of my film. I've been thinking about that lately. It's like learning how to, like, not compartmentalize myself, or, like, cutting off one part of myself just to say I'm this, or just to only do this, or do it in a way that seems like it looks the best to other people or can serve other people, which I want to do. I want to, serve others in this lifetime, but as an artist, you can't say, like, oh, this is what other people will like. It's like, it has to actually just come from your soul, and so I think, yeah, I've been doing a lot of projects for other people, and so that really doesn't feed my soul, and that kind of it can wear you out. Filmmaking is like, it's a very physical endeavor. It's a very like the thought, you have to think out and plan and get other people involved. And so if you're not really invested in the ideas, then you're really gonna burn out, you know. And so that was really what was happening. And you know, yeah, purpose, just making sure that, I think it's like an evolution, you know. It's like you try one thing, you figure out what parts of it, or if it works for you at all, you know. And I think I've been on that road for a minute, you know, and just being okay with saying, well, maybe for right now this is not what's working for me, or the way that it's happening is not working for me. So I can't say that I'm like completely not doing anymore. It's just the way that I have been doing it is not working, you know?
Yeah. You talked a little bit about, you know, being worn out and taking on all these projects, and it not fulfilling, kind of you as an artist and stuff like that. I feel like that's something that's not spoken a lot about in the community. I feel like that's something that needs to be talked more about in terms of taking care of yourself and making sure that you're not burning yourself out as an artist. How do you know when to take a break, to stop, and reevaluate what you're doing in your work and your practice? Yeah.
That's a good question. You know, sometimes I don't know, you know, and I just keep pushing through, and then problems start happening, and I'm like, oh no, okay, well, I gotta stop, or I'm gonna hurt myself or somebody else. But when I don't let it get to that point, the things that do sustain me are like, you know, spirituality, prayer, meditation, making music, you know, drumming. I also like to inline skate. That helps a whole lot. Exercise, eating right, sometimes eating junk food, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, laughing, you know, just things that, yeah, just like fill you up again. Friends, and but also just saying no sometimes, you know. Actually, kind of I'm learning that you actually have to say no a lot, you know, sometimes to get to the things that you really want to do, you know. But also like taking time to evaluate, giving yourself time, you know, to think about things, and to really look towards that inner vision, you know, to feel about things, using your intuition. It's, for artists, it's really important to give yourself that space, at least for me, you know.
I'm just curious, what kind of inline skates do you have?
I have, they're called USD, the A80s. They're like a mix between like a urban skate and what they call aggressive skates. Where you can, like, you know, skate the streets, or you could go to like a skate park and like do grinds or whatever. Yeah.
Do you use that skate park in St. John's?
Ooh, I've tried a couple of times, you know, and it was ugly. It got ugly. There was, the last time I went, you know, I tried to drop in, you know, and I don't know, because it's good to get familiar with your skates. I just got the skates, you know, and so I dropped in, and boom, I like hit my head, you know. I like fell back and hit my head. I was wearing a helmet, you know, had all my safety pads and stuff on. But like for the rest of the day, I had like a headache, and I was like, whoa, this, you know, it's a serious park. It's a professional grade concrete park. So Yeah.
Yeah, I only ask because I have roller skates. I convinced one of my friends to get roller skates, and then my other friend, he didn't want to do roller skating, so he actually got inlines. So we're a little group of. We just started too.
You have a crew.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's man.
Yeah.
That's even better when you have a crew. It's like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, yeah, I'm learning on my own, but
Cool.
yeah.
Are you guys doing the skate park thing too?
I don't. Are you guys?
Oh, you and your friend?
No.
You
I thought you were
friends?
asking. Oh, we go to our local middle school because they had like a soccer thing put in place that's like nice and smooth.
Cool.
And there wasn't anyone there, and luckily no one asked us to leave, so we didn't like it.
That's awesome.
And it doesn't say
Yeah.
no roller skating, so we're not breaking rules. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep
Roller
going.
skating's not a crime.
That's right.
Yeah. But actually, I wanted to ask. You did say you have to say no. You know, when you need a break and stuff. But I wanted to ask more specifically, like when you're taking on gigs or projects and stuff like that. How do you make some of your money from that, or how do you get funding for your works? And how do you choose what you do and don't?
Yeah. Well, that's where it does get important to figure out how you want to do your art and to say no, because pretty often people will say, hey, can you do this thing, and they're paying money. Sometimes it's not that much, or sometimes it is, but it's a time commitment, and if you're an artist who likes to come up with their own ideas and start doing those, then those projects that you accept from other people can really take up a lot of time that you would use to do your own projects, especially film, because those projects take a lot of just willpower, quite frankly. And so honestly, I had gotten into a rhythm where I was taking on a lot of projects, just to make money and pay the bills and stuff, and that's where I was just like, I can't do this anymore, because honestly, it's been a while that I made projects just from my own imagination, because you still have to make sure you're secure and stable, and so yeah, I think I'm still figuring that out. Sometimes it's a matter of, well, you just might have to take a job, if you don't want to take these projects and be a freelance artist. And I think that's what I'd rather do at the moment. It's like, take a job, and then, on my free time, do the projects that I want to do, Yeah. Although at the moment I'm still doing the freelance thing, but I'm kind of transitioning out of that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is maybe a good chance to ask Kalimah. Do you have any questions for the students that you'd like to ask them?
Yeah. What are you guys working on that's exciting you right now?
I don't know. At the moment, I haven't really been able to draw or make art, I guess. But for a while I was really inspired to make these stickers.
Ooh. Cool. Strange fruit. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm at the moment, I guess, also I'm trying to figure out how I can make more efficiently than just making them by hand one at a time.
Wow. That's really cool. What inspired you to start making them?
Probably earlier in the year, February. I watched this movie, and it was the United States versus Billie Holiday. That was when I sort of learned about lynching and kind of like came across her song Strange Fruit, and that inspired the literal Strange Fruit sticker. But yeah,
Absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie yet, but I heard it's like really intense and
it it was.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, and that then like that's the power of art. It's like, you know, it can it can make you think about these other things and you start creating from it. And yeah, that's really cool what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's also what causes, rabbit holes at first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trying to get the context and try to properly give out the message. If I said that right.
Yeah.
Are you still working on that mural project, or did you end up doing that mural over on Ethos?
I wasn't able to because of work,
There will
which
be
I'm
another mural.
kind of bummed about. And I've also been wanting to make an art portfolio so that I could actually have a good account for RAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RACC.
To go out for the RAC grants. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can make murals that way.
Absolutely.
But
wow.
Until then.
Yeah. Yeah, so you make murals as well?
I would like to.
Yeah.
But
that'd be excellent. I'm sure like I will see your murals one of these days. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, okay. I think my turn. I've been wanting to finally use up my fabric that I have. I've been working in a clothing store. Will remain unnamed. But I think it's interesting to kind of look at the clothes that cycled in and see how brands quite literally just like to copy each other, and how everything is just a variation of other brands, and how fast fashion and all that stuff. So I've been wanting to work on my own project of just making clothes, and not in a satirical way, but sort of to bring awareness to sort of the damage and just all that stuff and all that bad stuff that happens to the earth because of all these brands that just like to produce clothing that people will just buy and continue to buy every single season. But yeah, I've been wanting to use up my fabrics that I got secondhand. So that's what I've been wanting to work on. So putting it in the world so I'm held accountable.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so much happening, globally and locally with our environment, and with ourselves. It's like we need as much of that as possible, like that awareness, and not just the awareness but the practice of doing something different. So I think that's so important. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing it like once you gotten it going.
I actually wanted to ask, I see that you did do a little bit of teaching to youth about film and that kind of stuff. And can you just tell us a little bit about what it was like to work with students and how you came about to doing that and so.
I just, again, people asking me to do it, It wasn't something that I sought out, as you do your creative work, people will just start to ask you to do things. I've found. And yeah, it's been really really beautiful to work with young people and to help them to see their own like possibilities of what they can do or be out in the or create, yeah, just going back to even, how I started, being able to be in an environment that was just like, yeah, just make something, and that was a big confidence booster for me. And just, having that encouragement, even if people weren't really teaching me the specific things, sometimes you learn a lot just by doing, and just by having people who encourage you. And so, yeah, that process has been really cool for me. I'm still learning a whole lot about film, about, my artistic practices. So sometimes I feel like I'm not really qualified for it, but at the same time, it's like, again, sometimes what we need the most is just encouragement, because the knowledge, honestly, is out there. It's out there in books. It's out there on YouTube, and we just have to have like the will and the determination and the environment and the people to support us, So that's how I think about it, how I go about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all feel that way, where we don't feel qualified enough, just in general, about the things that we do. Like I'm supposedly halfway through my first year of college, or I'm halfway through my associate's degree, and I feel like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be qualified to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we all feel that way.
Yeah, I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like both things are kind of true, like I feel that way too. And in some ways, like, I'm not qualified, but also nobody is. And that's like the part you figure out is like we all both are and aren't qualified for whatever we're doing. Yeah. So it's like you just got to do it.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, you just got to do it. Absolutely. Yeah. What are you studying for your associates?
I'm doing multimedia.
Cool.
So, yeah, I have talked about it a little bit on here. I think I'm still working towards just getting that degree and wanting to work on project management. I think that's still what I want to do.
Yeah.
Ever changing.
For sure.
It's ever changing. We'll see what opportunities come.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess now that we're talking about kind of school and stuff like that, and I know you did touch a little bit on why you wanted to do film and stuff, but did you ever have a point or a time in your life where you were unsure or uncertain about just media as your career?
Oh yeah, for sure. In school, in college, it was because I don't know, maybe that was my sophomore year of college. Yeah, I just really questioned. I was like, this doesn't feel like the only thing I should be doing, and the college that I went to was kind of like traditional, so it is important to make sure that you're in the right environment, and if you're not, it's important to get there, so that you can have different ideas about what you can do. Because the place that I went, it didn't quite, there wasn't enough to support that brainstorming of like, oh, well, if this isn't it, then what else, So I think that it took me longer to come to certain ideas about, well, I could do this, I could explore poetry more, or music, or, things like that. And what kind of filmmaker did I want to be, because there are so many subcategories, that producing, directing, all sorts of things, that you could go into in that field. And so, yeah, in college, yes, I definitely had that. And I think I'm honestly still going through that process, you know, and you kind of have to just have the courage to be like, well, I don't know, you know, I don't know, but I'm going to try these different things, you know, and that's okay, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're ready to ask the last question, unless someone has any other questions to ask. Any of
Diana, do you have this is your chance to sneak another one in if you want.
I don't have any
Okay.
more.
No? Okay. Okay. So, as our traditional last question, what advice would you have to say to anyone who is interested in filmmaking, media, or just being an artist?
Well, go for it, you know, because, you know, what do you have to lose? You know, you just get to know yourself better, you get to know the world better, you know, and it builds your confidence. So, yeah, why not? Just go for it. Do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Believe in yourself. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes. Is there anything you would like to plug before we sort of wrap up?
Yeah, my Instagram handles Kalimah Abioto. My website www.kalimahAbioto.com. Yeah, that's about it, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's our
here.
pleasure. It's really great to talk with you.
Likewise. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all's work, and yeah, just it was a great conversation.
Do you all have anything else you want to plug?
I mean, I guess just my Instagram. Look out for my project that I said I would be doing at nickel, like the coin, .n_.
I'm also going to take one last chance to plug a show. It's the first in-person art show that I've participated in since the pandemic started. So I'm really excited about it. I'm part of a cooperative printmaking studio called Flight 64 in Portland, which is at 2934 Northeast Alberta Street. And we're having a show on Thursday, the 26th, which will be tomorrow for those of you listening live on KBOO. From 6:30 to 9:30. Masks are required, please. And yeah, there's going to be new work from everybody in the cooperative at that show for the first time in a year and a half or more. So hopefully you all come out and see the show. Kalimah, Abioto, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you and get to know more about your art.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.